Hello loves! Have you ever wanted to live in a castle, chateau, and or impeccably gorgeous medieval cottage? Well, then this video is for you. Since I was about 17 years old, I have spent an unruly amount of time digging through pages and pages of European castles and beautiful homes for sale online, and I have learned that these dreams may not be as out of reach as one may think. There are all kinds of listings for these beautiful structures all over the internet, with some castles under 1 million euros and beautiful chateaus and historical homes for under 500,000 euros. I often use this so-called research as a way to find inspiration for the home I live in, and as a way to maybe wish hard enough to be able to live in a place like this someday. Therefore, today we will be semi-unrealistically house hunting, looking through some of my favorite castles and whimsical homes that just went up for sale. The plan is to rate the estate on the following criteria for my personal ideal castle-like living space. Firstly, we have decoration. What interesting details does this property hold? This includes everything from crown molding, wood paneling, interesting wallpaper, fireplaces. Next, location. Where is this property located? Is it near the seaside, a major city, within a quaint walkable town? How cool is the location? Then we have move-in readiness. Is it clear that there is electricity or plumbing? Are the walls cracked? Is the ceiling there? And then we have the whimsy meter. Does it have the level of fairy tale likeness that I am looking for? Can I imagine myself dancing through the hallways or reading in the garden nearby? I care very deeply about the whimsy meter. Then I will post an overall score out of 10, with 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. Therefore, let's start with a bang with the first property on this list. We have this incredible castle for sale in Scotland for about 948,000 US dollars. Now, is this a lot of money to me? Of course. But in the grand scheme of things, this is really not a lot for a 20-bedroom castle. The average house where I live is about $300,000 to $400,000, and I certainly don't get to see beautiful structures and these beautiful surroundings where I live. Now, of course, there is intensive upkeep and I'm sure many regulations in living in a property this old. However, I think it's just so incredible that this is even on the market for such a low price in the grand scheme of things. I just think it is so incredible. Anyways, this gorgeous castle was built in 1897 to about 1900 as a hunting lodge by George Below after he inherited the island. The estate named Kinloch Castle holds 20 bedrooms and it sits on 18 acres of land with beautiful views of Loch Scresset. The exterior is so grand, with the castle turrets, the decadent windows, and the stone arches along this side of the structure. I can only imagine how fantastic it would be to sit under these arches and gaze at the loch in the distance. The inside is incredible as well, with the intricate molding and these beautiful little hideaway sections. I adore the wood paneling and the gorgeous fabric wallpaper and the great amount of light that shines through the windows. The castle sits on the island of Rum, a quaint, remote island near the famous Isle of Skye. It's known for its beautiful hikes and for this castle in particular, actually. From what I have found online, this residence was abandoned after World War I and was taken over by Nature Scot, which is Scotland's nature agency. They made the property into a museum and then into a hostel until it closed in 2015. I assume that tourism dwindled and the upkeep was too intense, so now it is on the market just 10 years later. Such a masterpiece of a structure and seems so important to the island, so I really hope someone can buy it and keep at least some of it open to the public as a museum or a hostel or an artist residency. As for our rankings, we will start with decoration. Decoration is definitely a 10 out of 10. Do you see these beautiful carvings? The listing states that the interiors are untouched with silk draped ballrooms. Like I said, 10 out of 10. For location, it is a 7 out of 10 for me. This stunning castle was built on the beautiful loch on an island full of rolling hills, coves, and greenery. It's quite isolated, which is why I docked the rating a few points, but the incredible views certainly make up for that to me. For move-in readiness, I'm going to say 7. It does say that it has plumbing, heating, and electricity, but while the structure doesn't look like it's going to fall apart, the listing does say it needs renovations, and I just have a feeling the estate is very difficult and expensive to maintain if it's been on the market for as long as it has. As for the whimsy meter, 10 out of 10. It looks like Hogwarts. I can just feel the magical presence of this place just staring at it through my phone screen. For the overall score, I'm going to start out strong and say 10 out of 10. As someone who studies history and happens to love being adjacent to a body of water, this place is perfect to me. Next, we have the Chateau in the Seigneurial region of France for a mere 2 million-ish euros. I know this is quite over my budget of the $20 that I have in my purse right now, but this one has a moat, so we're going to budget for that. According to the listing, the castle was built in the late 1400s by the architect Jacques de Persigny for Lord Philip du Moulin as a reward for having saved the life of King Charles VIII during the Battle of Fourneau. This is so fascinating to me though. The castle has 18 rooms and the estate comes with 98.8 acres, along with 3 outbuildings comprised of a caretaker's cottage, a vegetable storage house, and former stables that house a garage and 9 bedrooms. This is just insane that we haven't even gotten to the castle yet. According to the listing, the castle consists of 2 buildings, the dwelling and the manor house, which are accessed by a drawbridge and now dormant. It has 5 stories consisting of multiple bedrooms, a lounge, a kitchen, several bathrooms, a library, and even a chapel. The manor house has similar rooms and retained features from the Middle Ages like fortified outposts and some Renaissance features added later, like some of the windows added on the front of the fortress. Also, as I mentioned before, there is a moat around the structure, which is so incredibly cool. The inside of the castle is also very beautiful. I love the decadently detailed fireplaces, the eccentric wallpaper, and the ceilings supported by these wooden beams. If I were to rate the decoration of this castle, I would definitely say a 10 out of 10 once again. I love the built-in wooden shelving and the gorgeous cathedral ceilings, and once again, those fireplaces are a work of art. For location, I would also say 10 out of 10. The estate is situated in a forested area with many trails and meadows, and the town of Romorantin-le-Thenay is only about 16 kilometers or about 10 miles away. This is a bigger town with more shops, museums, and the train station. It is also surrounded by prominent castles in the region and is close to Blois, I believe, a prominent city in the Loire Valley. I love how remote the location seems while also having civilization within close proximity. For our move-in readiness meter, I would rate this an 8. It looks perfect from the pictures, but the description does say that it needs some work in the stable houses to be habitable. I believe everything is okay within the actual castle structure though. For the whimsy meter, of course I am going to say a 10 out of 10. It is a castle with turrets, a moat around it, and a presumably enchanted forest. This practically breaks the whimsy meter. Overall, once again without explanation, I will be rating this a 10 out of 10 overall. Quick spoiler alert, none of these rankings are going to be low. I think they're all really cool. Next, we're going to take a quick break from the castles and look at this beautiful 16th century seigneurial home in Corrèze in the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region of France. A seigneur was a landowner in the seigneurial feudal system, the land tenure system that occurred after the medieval feudal system in France. Its residence is listed for $579,300 and has 7 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a vaulted cellar. This beautiful stone home is situated on a hill overlooking a beautiful meadow and forest along with lovely rolling hills. I love the stone used for all of the buildings here, but the natural beauty around this home is really what shines here. Inside, wooden ceiling beams, stone indentions, and large fireplaces make this rustic interior feel cozy. Many of the windows face the sunset, I believe, and they let so much natural light in, which I love. I also adore this indent under this large window here where the previous owner placed a desk. This would make for such a beautiful study area with the stunning views of the hills around you. For our decoration rating, I'm going to rate this a 7.5 out of 10. The decoration is more minimalistic than the 2 castles we looked at previously, of course, so I feel like I can't really compare them, but the wooden beams and stone features are still very beautiful. The decor is simple, tasteful, and warm. For location, I would give this an 8.5. I don't know too much about this region of France, but it looks beautiful. The town of Corrèze looks stunning with rolling hills, medieval and Renaissance style architecture, and a lovely river running straight through it. It also seems like there are many great things to do with trails, waterfalls, ruins, museums, and more in the area, along with many cafes and restaurants with great looking food and scenic views. I only docked points because it is about a 2.5 hour plus drive to major cities like Paris and Bordeaux. For move-in readiness, I would rate this a 9.5 out of 10. I don't see any work that needs to be done other than maybe some shingles on the exterior, but I am definitely not a professional with this kind of stuff. Lastly, for the whimsy meter, I would put this at an 8.5 out of 10. When compared to castles with moats and decadent ceilings and stone staircases, I have to not give every single estate a 10 out of 10. But I still think this is beautiful and charming in its own whimsical way. Overall, I would still rate this property a 9 out of 10. Next, we're going to look at this beautiful 15th century townhouse in Ipswich, England. This house is listed for about £800,000, which is just over $1 million US, and it holds 6 bedrooms. Not a lot is mentioned about the history of the property. It looks like the townhouse was likely built in about 1420 for a wealthy wool merchant. Otherwise, I don't think much else is known about the history. The house certainly still holds this medieval charm though, through its oak beams and details in the windows, but it had some home additions in the late 1700s, I believe, which is why parts of the building are truly medieval and why other parts have Georgian architectural features like the red brick and more modern windows. The medieval exterior is so stunning. I absolutely love the timber frames, and the front-facing window is gorgeous. The inside of the house is truly mesmerizing to me though. I'm already rating the decor a 10 out of 10 because it has every feature that I love. Has detailed windows that let a lot of light in, beautiful tiles, and most importantly, beautiful dark wooden cabinetry that makes me feel like an alchemist. Everything is so exquisitely maximalist in the way that I absolutely adore. My favorite feature of this townhouse though is definitely this lovely patio with greenery and a small pond. Of course, this house is a little bit more expensive in reference to the square footage, but I think it's really beautiful, which is why I wanted to show it. Very historical, but also is in a more urban area. Since the property is in a more urban area, I would expect the prices to be a little bit higher. So that leads us into our location rating, and I rated this an 8 out of 10 for location. This townhouse is located in Ipswich's central conservation area, which is within walking distance of Ipswich's cafes, galleries, and historic waterfront, which is very, very cool to me. The only reason I docked points is simply because I like a little bit more of a mix between nature and city, and Ipswich is definitely more industrial and city-like than what I personally like, at least from what I have seen online. For our move-in readiness rating, I would rate this a 10 out of 10. I can't find anything from the pictures that show that there need to be renovations or repairs. The whimsy meter, I am going to give this a 10 out of 10. The inside is very eccentric, and I think I could hold many whimsical events in that outdoor space. Overall, I would rate this a 9 out of 10. The space has that eclectic, messy, Middle Ages-esque type of look that I personally like to bring to the function, so I really love it. Moving back to castles, we have this 19th century chateau on the border of Mayenne and Brittany near Laval. This property is listed for €850,000 with 14 rooms total, 7 of which are bedrooms, 2 of which are bathrooms, and 4 of which are shower rooms. Once again, I could not find much about the history of the property, but it was built in the 19th century in a way to mimic that Renaissance look in the exterior of the property. The property consists of the castle, of course, along with 64 acres and a beautiful pond. There are also several outbuildings that consist of an old farm with buildings arranged around a paved courtyard and a small gatehouse. The exterior of the castle is beautiful with many decorated windows and a decadent steep roof. I think this picture is really interesting because if you zoom in here, you can see that there is a pretty porch area where the previous owners put a pool, but I am very intrigued by this dark opening below. The listing says that the chateau is built on a complete basement, so I'm sure that's what that is, but I want to believe it is something a little bit more mysterious. The inside of the castle is truly a dream as well. This library was the first inside room to catch my eye with 3 things that I love: green walls, wooden beams, and wood paneling. It also has this little area, I'm not sure exactly what to call it, kind of like a loft that makes for the perfect reading nook. Here is another room. It's simple in color, but I adore the immense detail in the molding, paneling, and doors. This is probably my favorite part of the property though. The foyer holds this grand staircase with wood paneling and this tapestry wallpaper decorating the walls. For these rooms I have showed alone, I would rate this a 10 out of 10 for decoration. No explanation needed. Some of these other bedrooms have great potential, but need a little bit of cosmetic work. I like this one because it has a little bed nook, but the walls definitely need some renovation. Because of the look of some of these rooms and knowing that there's work needed for the outbuildings, I would rate this a 6 out of 10 for move-in readiness. For location, I would rate this a 9 out of 10. There's a small town offering shops and services about 5 kilometers away, which is like a 10-minute bike ride, and there are several towns around with very interesting sights. The city of Laval is also about a 30-minute drive from the property, full of medieval architecture, museums, shops, and restaurants. At Laval Station, a high-speed train can take you to Paris in just 1 hour and 10 minutes too. I love the location since it seems pretty secluded, but you're also able to get to major cities in a short time frame. For my whimsy ranking, I would rate this a 10 out of 10. A castle with a cool lake, a forest, and a grand staircase. That sure sounds whimsical to me. Overall, I would rate this a 9.5 out of 10. Next, we have this incredible townhouse in Barnard Castle in Durham County, England. Now, this actually just recently sold, which is devastating to me because I have been keeping tabs on it since January. However, this property is still so interesting to me, so I'm still going to talk about it. This townhouse was originally listed for £550,000 until it dropped down to £485,000 in August. The townhouse, called Balgrave's House, is the oldest house in Barnard Castle and the second oldest house in County Durham, dating back to the 15th century. It was originally the residence of Richard III and has served as a residence, restaurant, and cafe in recent years. This property is really interesting to me because I have actually been inside the estate. One of my mom's friends lives in this region, so we went to visit, and I absolutely fell in love with Barnard Castle and this place in particular. The owners were so sweet and had fantastic taste in antiques. They really tried to keep the rich history of this place alive and added decor that really added to the space. I absolutely adore the wallpaper and the colors they used around the estate and the tile fireplace. Most of all though, I love how there's this courtyard with string lights that leads you from the main house to this big room. This room was my favorite. You would order at the bar on the ground floor of the house, and then you could sit in one of the select rooms in the main house, the outside area, or in this room where they had eccentric seating areas and a record player with many great classical songs that you could play. This place is so fantastic, and I really hope the person who bought this house keeps the history alive and hopefully keeps it open, particularly either as a cafe, restaurant, or shop, since the estate is so beloved to locals. For location, I'm going to give this a 9. I really loved Barnard Castle. The castle ruins are very interesting. I really loved sifting through the antiques in the shops, and I loved walking by the riverfront. It is quite a small town, but Durham is about 30 minutes away by car, and Edinburgh is about 2 hours away by train, so you can get some city life in as well. For move-in readiness, I'm going to say this is a 10 out of 10. I think the owners kept up this property really well. The kitchens and bathrooms seem to work, and there aren't many signs of renovations that I can see from the pictures. For the whimsy meter, I would of course rate this again a 10 out of 10. I just felt the most magical energy here, and the town is just so quaint and beautiful. Overall, I would give this a 10 out of 10 just because this place is very special to me. The last estate we are going to look at today is probably one of my favorites, other than the one with the moat. That one is definitely number one. This is a manor house listed for 850,000 euros in the town of Chateau in France. This property is absolutely stunning and I think is a great price for what you get. This estate is from the 16th century, with additions added later in the 17th century. The manor house has 16 rooms, 10 of which are bedrooms, and the house is located on 47 acres. There are many outbuildings on the property, including, but not limited to, a 3-room gardener's cottage with central heating, a sheep pen, a poultry house, a garage, a kennel, a stable, an orangery, and a wood shed. It also has a pool, a flower garden, a vegetable garden, and private riverfront access to the Mayenne River. The outside of the dwelling is gorgeous with Gothic and Renaissance elements. I love the spire, the turret, the decoration at the top of the windows, and all of the greenery on the outside of the property. The shape of the building also makes it feel very cozy and connected. The inside of the manor is just as grand though, with stone fireplaces, wood paneling, antique chandeliers, and painted ceilings. My favorite room from the photos is this one that was used as a bedroom. I know I keep talking about how much I love wood paneling, but I just cannot help myself. It's so gorgeous and the wooden carvings are spectacular. I love this little loft area and the ceilings add to that medieval look. Overall, for a decoration, I would give this a 10 out of 10. I love how the owners kept the charm of the place and didn't try to change the features that are very historical. For location, I would rate this a 9.5. The property is near Chateau, which is a nice town by the river. It has necessities and some nice restaurants, cafes, and some pretty views on the riverfront. I love hanging out in nice cafes and sitting outside at a nice restaurant, so living somewhere with plenty of these spots is a must for me. There's also a direct rail line between Chateau and Paris that only takes about an hour and a half, so you can get that small town feeling along with the close proximity of a major city, which I love. For move-in readiness, I'm going to give this a 7. The manor itself doesn't need much work from what I can see, but the outbuildings do need some maintenance. Otherwise, it seems perfect. For the whimsy meter, I am once again rating this a 10 out of 10. I can definitely see myself frolicking through the flower gardens and running down to the riverfront with my morning chai and dancing underneath the chandelier. Lastly, for the overall score, I am giving this once again, with no surprise, a 10 out of 10. No explanation needed for this gorgeous property. Well, that is all I have for you today. Even though I definitely don't have the means to buy one of these incredible properties, it is just so interesting to know what is out there. It is truly a dream of mine to live somewhere with such rich history and intrigue and whimsy, and ideally in a nation with less gun violence and free healthcare. I'm sure this is a dream for many of you as well if you have made it this far in the video, and I hope this opens up some doors for us to dream big even if we don't have the means for it. The opportunities are there. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day and I will see you next time. Goodbye.